Good evening. Welcome to the Selectmen's Meeting for October 2nd, 2018. Could I get a roll call, please?
Cindy King is present.
Wayne Miller present.
And Sue Licio is present. The Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. Chairman's additions or deletions? I don't think we have any. Jim?
Nope.
Public comment period? No. All right, we're going to do executive sessions first, and so I will entertain some motions.
I move that we move into executive session to, do we have to read all these? Mm-hmm. Okay. 2.1, executive session pursuant to General Law C-30A, 21A3, to discuss strategy, respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position or litigating position, and the chair so declares for AFSCME Supervisor Union Lieutenant and AFSCME Police Union grievance. 2.2, executive session pursuant to GLC 30A 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position or litigating position, and the chair so declares.
The chair declares on both.
Fire union. And the last one is executive session pursuant to GL C-30A S-21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect to the bargaining position or litigating position, and the chair so declares.
I do declare.
Update on cases involving Eaton, Clark, Merrill, Norrington, and the Water Department.
Do I have a second?
I'd like to amend the motion to say that we're going to return to open session after the executive sessions, and I will second that with the amendment.
Okay.
Thank you. All those in favor, roll call, please.
Cindy King, yes?
Wayne Miller, yes.
Sue Licio, yes. So we will return to open session after we're done with this. Welcome back to the Selectmen's Meeting. We are at item number 3.1, under appointments of officials and personnel. 3.1, appoint Terry Walsh as office assistant for the Townsend Water Department effective October 2nd, 2018, contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and query check with a one-year probationary period.
I move that we appoint Terry Walsh as an office assistant to the Townsend Water Department effective October 2nd, 2018, contingent upon passing a medical exam and query check with a one-year probationary period.
Second for discussion.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion?
No, this is a part-time? Or is this?
Yeah, part-time.
How many hours?
19.
Okay. Okay.
Discussion?
No, we've been through this enough.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
Okay,
we have, sorry for the question, but
that's all right. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. 3.2, appoint Kevin Keefe as water tech to the Townsend Water Department effective October 2nd, 2018, contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and query check with a one-year probationary period.
Madam Chair, I move that the board appoint Kevin Keefe as a water tech to the Townsend Water Department effective October 2nd, 2018, contingent upon passing of a medical exam, query check, and a one-year probationary period.
Second with the same question. Full-time?
Full-time.
Okay.
I have one comment, just so, for full disclosure, I filled out a 23B disclosure just to let folks know. I've known Kevin's family for a long time, I started trying to figure out how many years, and I just said, since he was small. And I wasn't even aware until this that he was up for it. So that's just full disclosure about that. Worked with his mom and sister, too, at the same company until last week. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Waiting for all that, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. 3.3, appoint James Landy as full-time police officer to the Townsend Police Department for a term effective October 2nd, 2018 to June 30th, 2019, contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and background check with a one-year probationary period.
I move the board appoint James Landy as a full-time police officer to the Townsend Police Department for a term of effective October 2nd, 2018 to June 30th, 2019, contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and background check with a one-year probationary period.
Moved. Second?
I have a question
Do I
before I
have a-
second it.
Can you second it?
All right, I'll second it, and I have a question. I have
Okay.
a comment that how long did Mr. Landy or Officer Landy work for us prior to his resignation? Approximately,
About 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
okay. Do we have an absolute requirement, contractual union or something, that we have to give him another one-year probationary period? Is this something that we can waive?
I believe we can waive that.
It's in the,
Is it-
it's in the contract, the police contract, so the only way to waive it would be to negotiate the waiver with everybody else in the group. So you'd have to have the union representatives in to negotiate that.
Okay, so,
I have a question as well, too, if you're done.
okay.
So just for clarification, since this is a term for less than a year.
The annual appointments.
So that's part of the annual
Yeah.
appointment? Okay, that's what, I didn't understand that, thank you.
So, Cindy, did you want to do anything else with that, or?
Is the police contract under?
It will be open again shortly. Play that handout.
I'm
If
wondering
I'm an
if-
officer over there that is in today, I would not want to go back a step and have somebody leapfrog me in seniority. He left, he lost seniority, he comes back in at the bottom of the spot.
But to Cindy's
I'm only
point,
talking probationary
Yeah,
period.
that's all she's
I'm not talking about
talking.
any other component of the contract. I'm saying, he's already done a one-year probationary period. We wouldn't be hiring him back if there had been something that happened, although I'm sure there's going to be there hasn't already been a background check to see what have you been up to for the last year.
well, that's in here.
I just feel weird about making him do another full year probationary period. But if it has to be negotiated with the union, I don't know if we want to make the probationary period only to the period of this appointment to June 30th, and then,
Well,
not that I expect it to be a problem with it, but I just,
it seems to me, I mean,
I'm
I'm
making
kind of in
more
agreement with you. It
paperwork
seems to me
here.
it's a shame to do that to someone that we've known for a while, and you guys have known for a while, but
if it's going to be more trouble than it's
I
worth.
guess I would bow to, to the chief and deputy chief on that, on whether or not that's a big deal, or if you want that to stay in.
For as much as obviously not something that happens every day. There was severance, there was a significant amount of time from the severance. I'm not sure what it would entail. I know it is laid out in the collective bargaining agreement for patrol officers. And I even think it was renegotiated in this latest addendum, there was a mention of probationary period, if I'm not
It was
mistaken.
increased from 6 months to a year.
So it's been
Yeah.
a pressing concern of management in the past. Has very little effect as far as benefits are concerned, am I right? Jim, I don't believe it has any ancillary effects.
No, it doesn't.
Any less of benefits or any less of time. Where it becomes an issue is if there was a recruit officer, if he was getting paid a different rate of pay because he wasn't yet sworn and doing the duty
True,
out in the field. So trying to wear two hats, the probationary thing, I don't think it necessarily hurts. I know internally we have we up the amount of evaluation that happens, but that's just normal best practice. I don't think the employee is impacted much at all, other than the job security.
And he knew that this was, we were gonna be voting, that he would be on, he's been told that he's gonna be on probation again.
Yeah, he did, and I've had
Right.
extensive conversations with him over the last 5 or 6 months, and if he was brought in at a rate of pay that was commensurate with what he left, he would be tickled pink. I think anything, and he realizes he's coming in at the bottom of the barrel, exactly as
He's
Mr.
gone,
Pratt.
he's been bumped down?
No.
No, he's coming back in at what he left.
And he'll be tickled pink with that.
He is.
Yes.
Oh, all right. So he'll, all right, okay, I was just,
So it doesn't affect anything
it's not worth,
materially?
Not that I'm aware of, I could take a deeper dive to look, but
it
when
would
I
only
looked at
be
it
a
first, I
problem
couldn't
if
find any
something, if he
benefits of that.
misbehaves over the next.
Right, if during the year he does something, he doesn't have rights, doesn't have protective rights under the union contract, that's really the effect of a probationary
Okay.
period. in
And
a
he's
unionized
willing to
environment.
accept that so far, and it's probably.
When we had him and there were never any issues before, so we wouldn't expect that there would be any issues.
But just, I'm going, I mean, I don't want to talk about a contractual stuff, but that might be, if there's not a discussion of reinstating, I don't know, that might be something that either management or the other side.
Well, if you make the motion to appoint, subject to query and medical, and, the one-year probation rate unless otherwise agreed to waive, with the union. That way there, I can then march off and have a one-off discussion with them. And if
Okay.
they agree to waive it, then
All right.
it goes away.
All right.
Want to amend it?
I'd like to.
So amend the motion to include,
Unless agreed to be waived by the union.
unless agreed to be waived by the union for the probationary period.
Second,
Okay.
thank you.
Motion's been amended and seconded. We're ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome back, Jim. 3.4, appoint Alexandra Hayden as a reserve officer to the Townsend Police for a term effective October 2nd, 2018 to June 30th, 2019, contingent upon the passing of a medical exam and background check with a one-year probationary period.
I move the board appoint Alexander Hayden as a reserve officer to the Townsend Police Department for a term effective October 2nd, 2018 to June 30th, 2019, continued upon passing of a medical exam and background check with a one-year probationary period.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Nope.
Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.1, review request from Neshoba Valley Technical School District to declare school committee members for Townsend as special municipal employees pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 268A. Do I have a motion?
Just to review it.
Well, I think it's review and vote on it.
Can we discuss it?
I would be glad to discuss it. I don't need a motion to discuss it. What would you like to say?
Can we get a better explanation? I'm not quite sure that I understand the necessity or what the impact of voting no.
I'm inclined myself to vote no. And the reason is, I think it is on an individual town basis. And for them to ask for us to do it blanketly when we're not in the same situation as some other communities in terms of our size. I would rather leave it to, if the situation arises and somebody needs to come to us to be declared a special municipal employee, I would rather see it come in front of me at the time.
I mean, I'd be interested to know what we did in the past, because we had Karen serve as a member of the school committee as well as an employee in Townsend. Carolyn, do you know if there was a special municipal designation?
But school committee's not paid.
There
It's
was
a volunteer
special
position.
municipal designation on the position of the land use.
So it was done on that side, not on the
It was
school
done on
committee
that
side?
side, not on this side, but I believe that it pertains to the same issue I did hear
Yeah.
from Ms. Chapman today, so.
What do you mean?
Because she works for MRPC, and she's also the
School committee.
representative for us, for Townsend.
What I would prefer is if it's necessary for that,
One of ours. Yeah,
right, to come to us and say, now, is Karen saying that she thinks that she would need to be designated special municipal employee?
I don't believe that MRPC can designate her.
No, what I'm saying is, she works at MRPC, and she's appointed to the school committee.
not our issue.
That's not our issue.
Right. If I'm understanding you, what you're saying is if we have a school committee member that is also
An employee,
an employee here, they would need to be considered special municipal, they should then come and ask on a one-off basis.
exactly.
Would they have to if they're not paid? They do,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, because they would.
Yeah, I think they might have to, but I think it's just if you're paid.
I remember
I think
years
it's
ago,
just if
I
you're
mean, I'm
paid.
telling my old stories about when I was on the ambulance thing, that this had come up, and I think that's when all this special town municipal employee was coming up back in the 80s. That because we had, years ago, you know, people that were on the highway department were on the ambulance or the
And
fire
because it's a
department.
small community.
And then if you're full-time with the highway department, when you're going out on a fire, because you're paid on the fire, you're entitled to time and a half at your employee rate if you're gonna do that, so unless you're designated a special municipal employee. But when I saw this letter, I said, this seems awfully strange. I understand it as far as benefits go, as far as payment.
Yeah, I
We're
don't
not
understand.
paying anybody
I-
that's appointed to these, the school
I don't
committee.
like it. I don't
I don't
like
like it either.
So just take no action on it?
I'm going to take, yeah, let's, how do you like, would you like
I
to
move
make
the
it
board
official?
I move the board take no action on the request from the Neshoba Valley Technical School.
Second.
There,
None of us like it.
it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of taking no action on this item?
Aye.
Which means they could,
Could we also
they can come back to us.
direct the town administrator to
Talk with Denise about it.
notify them, please?
Would you like me to invite the superintendent?
No, I'm not interested in really discussing it. I want, if the situation arises and we need to do it, then let them come before us.
I have a hunch that, how many towns are in the north, this is
It's gonna be
Neshoba Valley.
9 now,
How
right?
many towns?
Who knows?
You gonna make me count?
Yeah.
Townsend,
No, it's a
Pembroke.
lot. It's a lot.
Westford, Chelmsford,
Chelmsford's
Little...
the biggest.
No, I don't know if Littleton's in that or not. There's quite a few.
There's quite a few.
There's quite
I got a
few.
funny, we're
Yeah.
probably not the only one that's not gonna do it.
Unless they're talking about, maybe their plan is to start paying their school committee members.
I don't know what the ethical, because they're claiming 268, which is the conflict of interest law.
Yeah.
If they have, whether you're a special municipal employee or not, if you have a conflict, a financial conflict with a contractor, that, you know, you can't, you have a conflict,
No,
and it
this
doesn't
makes no
matter whether
sense.
you're,
It makes no sense.
what your
Okay,
category
did we
is.
vote on it?
It did.
We're moving.
Move on.
Yeah, that's true, we moved along, okay.
Okay, 4.2, review approve first reading of policy 6-218, personal services contract administration.
Madam Chair, just very briefly, you and I spoke about putting something together that just sets a framework for personal service contracts. So what you would see is all personal service contracts negotiated by the board shall undergo review by Town Labor Council prior to final vote of approval. All personal service contracts, renewal, non-renewal, and renegotiation dates shall be tracked by the town administrator and provided to the board in time sufficient for the board to consider its intentions. So basically, anybody that has one of these contracts has a trigger date that you need to notify them about renewal, non-renewal, or renegotiation. That date could come and go without you knowing it, because why would you be, conversant on all of those dates? So this policy says that those dates will be tracked and you'll be made aware of them in advance of any requirement of action.
I just have one addition. Under number 1, could we somehow word that to put in written review? That we receive a written review? Just so that it's there for the future, if anybody 2 years down the road wants to understand that. And I had a question. that are allowed by law. By law, I'm assuming would mean according to Mass General Law,
Yeah.
Charter,
So
personnel.
Well, it'd have to be Mass General Law in that case, so specify Mass General Law.
Yes, that one is Mass General Law, okay? So if you could specify the law on that. Questions?
Nope.
Cindy?
All right, I move the board review, or approve the first reading of the policies, number 6-2018, personal service contract administration, as, to include the 2 amendments. Corrections.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Use PSC and PCA interchangeably when I'll make it
Fix it,
consistent.
please. Thank you. 4.3, accept a Highway Safety Division grant for an amount not to exceed $10,000 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security for the purpose of traffic enforcement.
I move the board accept a Highway Safety Division grant for an amount not to exceed $10,000 from the Executive Office of the Public Safety and Security for the purpose of traffic enforcement.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
What's this for? Specifically? Just
Yes.
available grant money that you can use at your discretion for traffic enforcement? As simple as that?
Looks like there's
It's
some
for
designated-
pedestrian and traffic. We ran a pedestrian event down on Main Street. In the course of 4 hours, there were 40 vehicles that failed to yield to pedestrian in the crosswalk. We used a decoy to walk, because obviously there's not a lot of people that are crossing, but
I heard that was quite a sting
Yeah, that
operation you
was-
had
it
running.
was really over 40
It was.
people failing to yield to the pedestrian in the crosswalk.
After going by the high school yesterday at 1:54, and the
Probably
amount of
could
kids
do it
crossing the street there, I'm glad to see
Even
this.
with the light, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll put it this way, some of it's on the people crossing the street as well. So there's education on both sides, I think, that has to be required.
Yeah, the
Chief, people-
grant is not available.
People may be
now,
interested in that little sting operation that you did. Share it with everyone, please, if you would.
We had 4 officers parked down by the dollar store, and we had 1 officer in civilian clothes walking across, he'd stand on the sidewalk by McNabb's, and then he'd start to take a few steps out, and whether the vehicle slowed and stopped or not, and he would then alert the other officers down the street. There were over 40 vehicles stopped in a period of a few hours.
It was impressive.
And he's one of our bigger officers, so it's not like, there's no, you didn't see him, you saw him.
Did you ticket or give warnings, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a question?
I do. What's the Adopt a Cone program? That's underlined on here as one of your targeted enforcement, Adopt a Cone program.
Oh, we have cones and crosswalk items that we've bought through highway safety money.
Oh, okay.
We've got 4 crosswalk, very bright, the type you put
Oh,
up.
the one that go in the middle of the road?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The ones that
Like
get
that-
hit
Like
regularly.
that guy?
Yeah,
The guy with the,
I don't see us leaving them out 24 hours a day like some places do, but
Oh, okay.
when something's going on at the Common, we could have it at the main intersection, we could have it down by the monument, places like that, so that people see it down by we have 4, so we could put it at the church, all the areas that people are coming across into the Common. It just slows you down a little bit. It's very bright, even if it's dark out, but it's all reflective.
Okay.
yeah, I think that there's one crosswalk that just, I can't say that I've never been guilty of jaywalking in front of Town Hall, but I know a lot of people will park by PC Land and to go to Cliffs,
The cliffs.
and they'll just walk across, even though it's 10 feet to walk to the center, and push the button and use the crosswalk, but they'll take a chance, and it's really, especially if it's like, especially Sunday morning or Saturday morning breakfast, the road, there's cars of different sizes that are, you can't see, and it can be, and this, if it's in the morning, there's glare, and I would think it's pretty dangerous, and I'm going to assume that we've had accidents there that, over the years anyways.
I'm sure over the years that there may have been.
Yeah,
I
but
can't
it just-
recall any in my tenure in pedestrian vehicle.
I think even an education to encourage people to just, even as part of an exercise program, to walk up to the, to the thing, and, I don't know, that's just,
I have a
it's a
question.
pet peeve I've always had.
I have a question where 119 is concerned. At State Highway, how much can we do and not do?
We can enforce
But-
anything there.
But somebody
As far as-
said a while back that it's different than Groton because Groton's is their highway. And they said we couldn't put up a yield for pedestrian sign or something like that because the state DOT doesn't allow it. Is that true?
They do maintain the street and own the street. I would, if I'm going to put cones up there, I would call them, talk to them, and I don't think that they would say no to it.
Because I'd heard that before, and could you just look into that and see if that's the case? That if on 119 we have the ability to do things like,
We definitely have the ability to enforce. But
I understand that,
putting the-
but my point
yeah,
is,
Putting the crosswalk signs out and.
that's, it's just another reminder that there's a crosswalk there, so,
I believe they allow it. I'll double check with them, but I'm pretty sure they allow
I
it.
love those, the solar-powered crosswalk signs that Groton has in front of Lawrence Academy. I'm going to assume that Lawrence Academy paid for those, although I apologize to the town of Groton if I'm wrong. But those are pretty, that would be, You know which ones I'm talking about.
They have them about every 100 yards or so. They're great things.
Yeah.
I have the thought in mind to look into that, to see if there's grants for those, because they just sit and they work all day long, all year long.
well, I don't think we should dismiss the idea. I mean, if you could find out how much they are and how many you'd want, then we could try to figure out how we pay for them.
We'd have to work with the state if we're gonna put them on 119.
yes,
Well,
definitely.
and that too,
Right.
and that too, say, we'd like to do this is how many we're talking about, this is how much it would cost, and look into different avenues for paying for
Right, we
it.
can check in to see if there's any grants that allow that type of thing.
It's not just grants, I mean, there may be somebody willing to donate
Yes.
as well, so, just a thought.
No, definitely.
Okay, so we ready to vote on this?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Four, accept the pedestrian and bicycle safety enforcement and equipment for an amount not to exceed $2,441.94.
Move the board accept the pedestrian and bicycle safety enforcement and equipment for an amount not to exceed $2,441.94.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on this one? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.5, review and approve change order number 7 in the amount of $10,350.10 for the West Townsend Fire Station.
I move the board approve the change order number 7 in the amount of $10,350.10 for the West Townsend Fire Station, and I do have a comment after.
Second, I think I probably have the same comment.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Wayne, go ahead.
I received correspondence today from a citizen who asked him to remain anonymous, with several questions regarding the building and these change orders, time of the project, who's running it, a whole list of things. I've sent that to Mr. Kreidler, who forwarded it on to Chief Boynton, and I intend on answering those, providing her with those answers to the questions that she asked.
You have received it, right?
I did. I got that right before I came here.
He
so-
flipped it around pretty quick.
Yeah. So there is concern in the public that this project is taking too long, and we seem to be adding expense after expense onto it, so.
I just, you want to see change orders.
I know you're going to say the school, so.
It's a normal part of the process, and it usually has to do with having the design is one thing, actually, getting down there and starting to work with it is another, and there are times that what you talked about in the design phase might not be working now, or
Right.
things need to change because you have something that you didn't consider. This one talks, for example, about some changes that were necessary, and therefore it's causing a domino effect on other changes. So it's typical, and as long as you're within your budget, and I don't know if there was actually a timeline on this one, but we've been working on the building committee for, it'll be 8 years,
Wow.
I think, in December. So,
Yeah. But I mean,
You've been doing that since you were 30?
yes. I'll pay you later.
I mean, I didn't know that Wayne had received a comment from a citizen, but I mean, I knew that if somebody's going to comment on this, it's got to be my same comment, is the same, that we just keep seeing a lot of change orders, and I've been kind of raising a yellow flag every time we get one. And I didn't study this one per se, but I know some of them have been foreseeable, like they should have been foreseen, right down to, some of them have been,
The
what
raising
color were,
building.
the raising of the grade was too low, so we're flooding the garage, or, oh, we had to change the paint color on the window. I mean, these are things that cost us a lot more money, that some of them should have been foreseen. And, I mean, I understand with buildings, things change, and I know from the beginning of this project, learning about changes in building codes from when projects start to when you finally get to start building something and you have to make adjustments, and I can understand those kind of things. And I know I keep hearing, well, we're still within the budget, so it's okay. Well, not really. And I think that, citizens, not just us looking at it, or me looking at it, that, citizens looking at this, and keep seeing these change orders, and the cost to the taxpayer hasn't changed because we budgeted for the top dollar, but it looks like it is. It looks like we keep adding nickel and dime, and how much is it going to cost us in the end? The same, but it's still, it just doesn't look well for planning, and I'm hoping that both from the fire department's filing system as well as, hopefully the selectman's office, if we're keeping, I know we have a history of keeping a very good system of record keeping on exactly how these changes transpired, so that there's going to be another building project in town in the next 50 years that people can look back and say, what kind of mistakes were made, and learn from from the backwards planning perspective on getting these things done in a better way. I just want to. I'm paying attention, and I don't like it either, that we just keep having these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, those are the same kinds of things that, we struggle with on the high school building committee. I think that you do have an opportunity to dispute some things that the contractor is saying that is happening, and you have the ability to talk about some of that. And certainly you have the ability, at some point, the building committee has the ability to go back and negotiate some stuff that is considered unacceptable or not finished in the way that it was supposed to be. And we just, as a matter of fact, finished doing that. And it was significant negotiations between the OPM and the building committee chair and the designer and the contractor. So it's pretty well watched and kept track of, especially if it's a publicly bid thing.
I do have the chief's responses to the questions. Wayne, would you mind if I just went through them just so anybody that's
Sure.
now had
Oh,
their
that'd be great.
Yeah.
their interest piqued. So the first question is, who is the owner's project manager, or OPM, on the West Townsend Fire Station? And the chief's response, in an effort to keep the project cost as low as possible, we do not have an OPM. Mass General Law requires a manager for projects over $3 million. This project is $1.75 million, therefore OPM is not required. Oversight on the project is being done primarily by the fire EMS chief and the architect, with support from Deputy Chief Shepherd and the members of the Fire Station Committee, which includes members with construction experience. Number 2, is the person a Mass licensed designer or Mass licensed construction supervisor? The chief writes back, the architect, Galante Architectural Studio, is a licensed designer. The next question, what experience does this person have in managing construction projects of this size and scope? The chief writes back, between the fire chief, deputy chief, and the committee members, there's over 50 years of experience managing projects of this size and larger. Question 4, what is the current value of approved change orders on the project? The chief answers $84,836.25, including the change order anticipated on the agenda this evening.
What percentage is this of that?
Of
Is
1.7, well, what's 84 of 1.7? 1.7,
One and a
10%.
6%? Yeah, 6.5 maybe?
You usually want to keep them under 10%.
What is
You
the
usually
current,
have a contingency for
Right.
them,
Yeah.
so.
what is the current value of
Well, it's in the
outstanding change
contingency.
orders? No outstanding change orders. Work under protest, there is no work done under protest.
Okay.
CCDs, the chief writes, I do not know what this is. T&M work, the chief writes, I do not know what this is. And any other claims and liabilities, he writes, there are no claims or liabilities. The question next is, what is the current total project cost? The chief writes, year-to-date, we have expended 1.409, $1,409,708.41. We are contractually obligated for expenses, including change orders, totaling $1,707,115. The project budget is $1,750,000. Therefore, we are currently under budget by $42,885. The question is, the project seems to have taken much longer than it should have. What is the reason for the extended schedule? What is the cost to the town for the extended general conditions? The chief writes, in an effort to attract bidders looking for small projects between jobs, and over the winter, we intentionally put the project out to bid with a liberal timeline. The schedule has been extended due to the change orders, which have all been at the owner's request to improve the design or increase the lifespan of the building. There are no costs to the town for general extended conditions. And lastly, who is holding the designer financially responsible for their error? The chief writes, the Fire Station Committee, Fire Chief, and Board of Selectmen would be responsible for holding the designer responsible for errors if an error was encountered. We are a few short weeks away from completion and do not anticipate any designer errors.
And what was the reason for the grade difference?
The way that was explained at the time when the change order was
Yeah.
sought was that it was initially designed to be down roughly 18 inches off of grade from the street, and that was based on savings in site work, because to bring the entire lot up, that 18 inches isn't just a small issue. That they had designed it intentionally that way and put drainage at the top of the driveway and at the bottom of the driveway, such that any runoff would hit those drains. They then realized when the project came in under budget, that was the first thing they wanted to address, because in the wintertime, you would have slush and ice that would clog those drains. You would have snow bankings on both sides with no real room for the sheet flow
Place for it
to
to go.
take off. So they came with the change order to increase the,
I guess the question that I'd have there is why
That was a problem.
wasn't that considered a design issue?
it was designed that way at the committee's request, is the way it was presented,
Okay.
as a
All right,
cost-saving
so
measure.
it was an owner issue. then.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
chief does make that clear, that each of the change orders has been initiated by the town.
Okay, some of those questions, I know that the deputy, Mr. Shepherd, would be able to answer the rest of those questions. And I shout out to Gary. He's been phenomenal on the building committee, and I expect that he's doing what he needs to do to help out on the fire station too. You talk about somebody that come back and negotiate and ask hard questions. If he's doing that on this project, a tenth of what he's doing on the building committee, then kudos to him.
And he's also put personal skin in the game.
Yes,
I mean,
and
his
his
business
company is donating some of the work or some of the labor as well, so shout out to Gary,
And
thanks.
take a minute to look at that granite wall. If you go down
beautiful.
by there, I stopped this morning just to say so to the guy that was working the excavator. I mean, it's an amazing piece of art when you actually stop and look at the way that is all coming together, so.
Well, thank you for answering this
Who's
quickly.
the design?
Galante Associates.
Okay, so do you want to vote on this change order?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4.6, review, discuss reports completed for the complaints of unregistered vehicles on 89 Wallace Hill Road and 31 South Street. Well, I did what I needed to do. Thank you, Deputy Chief, for taking me out there because I was afraid to go. We did not walk on the property, but we observed cars. When it comes to 89 Wallace Hill Road, I count a minimum of 3 cars, if not more. There were some that we couldn't tell if they had plates on, and those plates, of course, couldn't be verified because we didn't walk and inspect the cars. The vehicle identification numbers were undetermined. The vehicles that, I have 3 that are validated, as 2 didn't have any plates, and another that did have plates was found to have actually been canceled back in 2017. None of the vehicles appear to be more than 75 feet from the road, which is in violation of the bylaw as well. So you're allowed to keep 1 vehicle for a short period of time, but it needs to be 75 feet from a public way. And so that particular address has at least 3 violations. So I would ask that the board vote for 89 Wallace Hill Road in Townsend to get served notice by certified letter according to the bylaw, and that if we aren't presented with valid registrations, that they will be fined at the end of 30 days, $100 a day per vehicle.
Okay. I move the board authorize the town administrator to send by certified mail to 89 Wallace Hill Road a letter stating that there be 3 vehicles you have identified are in violation of the town bylaw and are compelled to
They have 30 days to
take
move.
30 days to move the vehicles, otherwise they'd be assessed a fine of $100 per day per vehicle.
That's to move and/or properly register them.
To come into
Correct.
compliance with the bylaw.
To come into
I
compliance,
like
yes.
that.
And they,
Second.
okay. And note that these particular properties, when they first came to our attention, we did send out certified letters notifying them with a copy of the bylaw. And then Deputy Chief and I just went out last week. Okay, so it's been some time, from back in June on this particular one.
Who actually assesses the fine? And who's,
It is the Board of Selectmen that is, according to the bylaw, assessing the fine.
and they would pay it to the
Town of
treasurer?
Townsend.
Town of Townsend. And then if they fail to do so, it would be to,
They're going to keep accruing $100.
but we would have to, after a certain point, at
For performance, we'd have to go to Superior Court.
Superior Court. Okay, that's why I want to know what the,
Then it would be in the
Can't just
hands
sit
of
there and have
town
no-
council.
Give us the
Okay.
next phase, yeah.
The second one is 31 South Street in Townsend. There were 2 vehicles parked, I'm guessing, no more than 15 feet from the road. Neither of them, one had a for sale sign, no plate, and the other one was just sitting there with no plate. Again, the same situation. Complaint came in June. Certified letter went out last week. There are still 2 vehicles there. So, and there's certainly, there's no way they're 75 feet. They're more like, I was being kind saying 15. It's not even 10 feet. So I would ask for a motion on that one as well.
That's 31 South Street, you said?
31 South Street.
Move the board authorize the town administrator to send by certified mail to 31 South Street that the owners of the 2 vehicles to come in compliance with the bylaw by removing or registering the vehicles within 30 days or be subject to a $100 fine per vehicle per day.
Second.
Is that better?
Yes. Very good, thank you. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carolyn, I'm sorry, just 2 on these? Thank you. So that's that. Do not say that I did not do that.
Wait.
Oh, thank you.
4-7, Police Department updates regarding certification, department policies, and staffing.
You guys want to come up?
All our police officer certifications go through the MPTC, National Police Training Council. That occurs between October and May of each year, and we'll be starting that up in October. Everybody has to go. As the chief, I have to attend 2 extra weeks for all us to maintain our certifications. I don't know if there was more you were looking for when you said certifications.
I was looking for what is the thing that we said we were going to be able to do?
Towards accreditation.
Accreditation.
As well?
Um,
Where are we with that?
Those would be our policies. We have not undertaken that yet. It had been started prior to me coming here. I think Dave Prophet did some work on that. There's some, when you look at them, you see he did some work to start that, but it was never completed. Right now, given the amount of time consumed over the past year and a half with the new dispatch, the radio systems, there's been so many glitches in that, and basically all the policies and procedures and processes in the police department, especially the processes were, I guess, ancient and not up to date. So we've been going through that process. We're addressing the policies as issues come up. If something comes up that we see in a policy, we'll address it and send a memo out. The plan is to go through the policies one by one, but what that takes is having the officers involved to look at a policy, bring out questions and concerns, have the officers read it, give us back information. Right now, given the staffing levels and the amount of hours the officers are working, it just wouldn't make sense to add that to them at this time, but it is in the plans. It's something that needs to be done.
We are enrolled in the Mass Accreditation Association, and I did attend an introductory kind of 2-day seminar on intro and on how to do assessments. So as we are reviewing policies as they come up and trying to do them in compliance with accreditation standards, so that if and when we do move forward and actually have mock assessments and move forward with the accreditation coalition, that the policies that we have done in the meantime are in compliance.
And at what point do you come back to the board for, or supply that information back to us? I know David did come back to the board at one point, and we needed to say okay to what he had done.
Any policies, the chief has the right to make and implement policies. There's a requirement that they be provided to the board for a period of 30 days for the board's comment. Hearing no comment within 30 days, they go into effect. So I think that's what you're going after there, Sue. So just keeping in mind that any changes you're making to policies would require that they be sent forward to the board for that purpose. Grouped in bunches is better than
Yeah.
dribs and drabs.
Yeah.
So,
You know, so if you get like 10 or 12 of them, and as a group, bring them to us, and like Jim said, you know, that's part of the chief job here, is if we don't have a comment, they become law, if you will, for your department.
Right.
Okay?
staffing.
Wayne, you wanted anything in particular, or just an update on staff?
An update on staffing, where we are, hiring process.
We have one officer in the academy. Well, when he comes out, he'll be ready for FTO.
How long is that?
The FTO process,
Well, how long is the academy, you know, where is he at in the process?
he graduates in...
He graduates December 20th. They're still working on the exact date, but about that time. So we're coming up on the halfway point.
Okay.
Pretty quick here.
So when he comes out, he'll go into an FTO process, so he
What does
doesn't...
that stand for?
Field training officer.
Thank you.
So he'll be with an officer for a period of time, probably 2 months or so or more.
Here?
Here, yeah, one of our officers. We've got 2 officers currently going to field training officer school, so we'll have a larger cadre of people to be able to perform that function. It's a pretty tedious function, so you don't want to get rid of one and then just give the same officer another one. It can be pretty taxing.
It's not like what we see on TV.
It is not, no, and it's a big responsibility because the major part of their training comes from those officers.
New TV shows,
You know, at least the day-to-day.
I think that field training program or part is worthy of a little more discussion. One of the things we've got to be very careful of is onboarding too many people and overwhelm our ability to train them completely and comprehensively. So we're trying to stagger them. We've got Alexandra, the young lady that you appointed tonight, starting within the next couple weeks, hoping to get a lion's share of her reserve training completed before the full-time guy comes in, because they are going to be coming in a clip where we, as the chief had mentioned, we only have one officer assigned to that duty now. We've got a couple going to a school actually this week.
Right.
It's coming up this week, where we've got 2 other officers that will learn how to adequately field train, which is a pretty substantial certification process to learn how to become a field training officer. It's a very serious and very comprehensive kind of program. So we've got to be careful. I wouldn't be able to onboard 3 people even if I wanted to, because I don't think you could adequately train them in a manner that would be in the best interest of everybody involved. So we do have a staggering kind of approach to it, and you'll see in the memorandum provided, there's a bunch of irons in the fire. So trying to onboard at a rate that we can actually keep up with and train to a level of our expectations is going to be a challenge in the next few months.
Finding the high-quality candidates is difficult. The profession is not what it used to be. It used to be, if you wanted a police job, you'd wait years for them, and now it's not that way. There's a lot of candidates, but they're just, the quality is not what it used to be. So we have to really do a good background check. And as you know, we lose one and we gain one. It just seems to be the way things are. Officer Landy returning is great. Officer Thayer is leaving to go to Chelmsford Police. It's his hometown. He's been on the civil service waiting list. So he's leaving us to go back home. So we get one, we lose one. And it's the nature of the business now. And we'll keep going. We have some people in waiting that we can reach out to pull back in candidates. The candidate for our clerk's position, who was ready to come on board. She had some family emergencies and events that required her to withdraw, so we're going back to the drawing
Oh,
board
that
there.
was the records clerk that we just
Right.
voted on?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh,
Previous one. Few
Yeah.
weeks back.
Yeah, a few weeks back. So
Okay.
we're going back into, we had a pretty good group of people who come through, so we're going to be interviewing a couple for a second time and see if we can find somebody there.
so what's your optimum number? I mean, what are you shooting for, and where are we in relationship to that?
This sheet right here. Yeah, you should have a second sheet that
You'll
shows.
find a staffing chart included in your packet, and it basically provides an overview of our funding. As of today, there really is only one spot that is unaccounted for, and that the gentleman that fills that spot now hasn't even resigned. His resignation is effective at the end of the month. So we're ahead of the game a little bit this time around, because I do have a group of recruits that I tested over the weekend. They'll be back to do another phase of the testing in a couple weeks, and we'll use that group to flesh out one candidate, hopefully to fill Mr. Officer Thayer's spot. At that point, we will be at full staffing from a funding perspective. So really, I say that, but at the same time, there are a number of candidates in background, and I know better than to count my chickens before they hatch. We do obviously wash people out for background reasons and other reasons that you come across during those things. So you can't guarantee those spots, but all spots are accounted for at this point, with the exception of Officer Thayer, who isn't even resigned yet until the 19th.
So it's getting better is what you're telling me.
Well,
It's starting to see the light.
It's poised to
yeah,
get.
it's an evolving issue, and I think there's a bunch of things that factor into both recruitment and retention, in addition to the issues that exist at the department. Whether or not you retain an employee is a whole other conversation, but they do happen in tandem. But there's a number of considerations people look at when they come to the profession. Certainly, influenced by post-retirement benefits, by the schedule, by the pay, by benefits, by the national and local climate towards police. One of the challenges that faces us is that even when you have those candidates, the Massachusetts Police Training Council is difficult in the sense of the way they schedule academies. And I really couldn't even have told you what the official next academy start date was until I think it was 2 weeks ago when we finally got word that it's in March. So you operate very blind in a sense, you don't understand when you can schedule your next academy candidate. So from my perspective, if you give me the date that academy starts, I can then back up and say, okay, I know it takes this long to do background. I know it takes this long to test. I know it takes this long to advertise. Now I've got a healthy timeline. In the Commonwealth, that's not so easy. One of the other challenges that we are posed with is we really don't have a lot of choice when it comes to academies that we choose. The one we seem to be within commuter distance of at this point would be Reading. Boylston, which is one we've used historically, does not seem to be offering full-time academies anymore, which is a big change in direction for this department. The current gentleman that's in the academy for us is in Randolph, but we were only lucky that he lived in Medford at the time. So the commute every day, you cannot expect someone to commute an hour and 40 minutes to an academy 5 days a week for 6 months. So we're very limited in where we can go as far as what academy we can use. I've been in discussion with MPTC and the variety of academies that we have to our disposal. I think Reading makes the most sense, but again, the rhythm of the schedule is very, very difficult to both figure out and to get official word on. Right now, we know it's March. We have one slated tentatively to go to that one. But if we hire an uncertified person or untrained person for Officer Thayer's position, I'm left with, what do I do then? Find another one? Do I put 2 in at March? It becomes musical chairs, if you will. There are some alternatives. If we are to find a person that was reserve trained, we could obtain a 270-day waiver. So then I could stagger when they go to the full-time academy and actually have the benefit of having that person here in the field completing that portion of their training before they go away. So the model moving forward is to identify people that want to come to work here, get them trained up as reserves if at all possible, on their dime if at all possible, and then queue them for full-time openings, and then it's an easier thing. And that seems to be the model that has been working here for the last decade anyway. Keeps costs low, it gives you an immediate availability to a pool of candidates. They're a known commodity, they're not brand new off the street. You've had them working with you for a little while. So I think moving forward, that's certainly what our model is going to look like, particularly with the challenges that MPTC causes.
And we're changing the way we use the reserve officers. The way it had been, or appears to have been, is they would work when they would like to work, and we're making it more that they need to work when we need them to work. We give them a variety of areas to pick from. We're not forcing them to work this shift. We put out a list and they pick when they want to work, but they need to be working shifts for many reasons. One is to help us, but the other is to stay current. If you take a shift in May and you take a shift in December, you're not current. And we've seen that in a couple of our reserves that we had to do some retraining with.
So it's almost like you're hiring part-timers, but it's a set kind of schedule and expectation.
Right, that,
Right.
moving forward, that's certainly what we
Right.
want to do. The chief is correct. I ended up actually putting out an email today to our reserve contingency now, which is 5, I believe. 6 if you add Johnson, maybe.
And we're going to try to build that a little as we go.
And we're sending out a list of the shifts we would like them to work. And they have to pick a minimum of 2 in a month's-long period, which will alleviate some of the pressure with our schedule and give us some level of coverage on the weekends where we really are hurting for staff as a little bit of a pressure relief valve. I'm not so sure all 5 will be down with that. We may have some attrition because of that policy, particularly if we put our foot down about mandating that. But for a number of reasons, as the chief suggests, I think that's the best policy. I don't think it's a good idea to have a guy work the occasional every 4 or 5 months. Things change too quickly in our profession. And there is the benefit of the details that come along with that. So there is some motivation for them to have the job. I do think in the near term, I would like to revisit the pay for specials. To be honest, I'm not so sure it was adjusted over time like the non-union wages were. I think at one point, if I was a betting man, I'd like to still do my research, but I think if I was a betting man, it was probably affixed to the top-end patrol officer's pay on day shift. And as years went by, as non-union scale got adjusted 2%, 3%, it never was. And if you reverse engineer that, it comes to be about that, what it is. I think the rate currently is $18.80 an hour, which again, when you're dealing with highly trained professionals, that's a very difficult rate to put out there and expect them to work for you. There is the ancillary benefit of being able to work $55 an hour details, of course, but that still is an issue. And I think if we did bump that pay up to the top end day shift rate, it would be a win-win for us. It's mutually beneficial to have those people working. Almost, it's supplementary to our existing force, and it does really help when we're hurting for staff.
I do have another question. When you talked about the academy trainings, what is the organization that you go to for that?
It's called MPTC, Massachusetts Municipal
Police Training Council.
And their website is very good.
Is that a state agency?
It is. It is. And the requirement is that you cannot appoint a police officer to law enforcement duties absent an approved curriculum from MPTC. So they would have to complete an approved curriculum.
So is that the place that you had to go to for your
Yes.
certification?
Correct. Right.
Well, they're not really a state agency as much as they are a quasi-state agency, I think.
It's
It's a
kind
state
of goofy.
agency?
State agency,
Under what branch?
under the executive office.
Public safety.
Right, public safety.
Under public safety?
Executive Office of Public Safety, EOPS.
Thank you.
That's also the organization that lays down the minimum standards for training that alluded to as being.
Yeah, yeah. Good. You talked a little bit about other benefits. I'm thinking of attrition, okay? And what are the things that we need to be thinking about in order to retain people? Because we put a lot of time and money and care when we hire folks. And to be known as a feeder system might work when you own all of the teams, but and you're trying to get the Pop Warner to play for the high school and for the college, but that's not necessarily what you want to have happen.
Part of it is the civil service system for young men and women who get into civil service and get on a list. They know they may be waiting a year or 2 years if they want to pick the place that they really want to be at. And that's, Officer Thayer is an example of that. Now, I don't know if he came here thinking that he would leave, but his home is in Chelmsford. He came here, worked, he's on their civil service list, and over time, he gets higher and higher on the list to the point that they reach out to him. And
So civil service is one.
Right.
Benefits?
benefits and pay can be one. I know here, I've heard it from some of the officers, that is the health insurance and after retirement,
The retiree health insurance or
Right.
lack
or
thereof?
lack thereof. I've heard that a number of times from folks.
And I think there's some collective bargaining issues as well, and I think as we kind of roll around, one of the points that I would drive is, it's my estimation it costs you probably $100,000 to get an academy trained professional back working a call by himself. About $100,000. When you factor in their pay, the cost of their training, the cost of their benefits, the cost of their equipment, the cost of their field training, when you roll that in all together, a kid from college to working a call by himself, in my estimation, would be about $100,000. And I'm probably undershooting it, to be honest. It may be a little bit more than that, particularly when you think about the impact on the agency. But one of the things I've done is I begin to assemble a contract notebook. I think there are some things within the collective bargaining agreement that are poor for retaining personnel. In those types of conversations, I'd like to have an executive session because I do think they're negotiated items. But suffice to say, there's a variety of factors that I think impact recruitment and retention. And I think it wouldn't shock me if we had that conversation and then we came up with a plan for a short-term and a long-term solutions. I do think post-retirement benefits has been mentioned in exit interviews before. Certainly current pay, current benefits, all those things are at play at the same time. There's no question about that. Equipment is part of it. The atmosphere, both the national and local climate is part of it. But all of those things, I think, when you take them all together, really impact your ability to both recruit people to come to work here, but also to retain them. One of the things we have done to try and alleviate the training ground kind of mantra is to come up with a training agreement that makes sense. We vetted it by town council, and we did enter into a training agreement with Officer Lowe, who's now in the academy. Now, all that does is lock him into working here. I believe it's a period of 2 years. If he leaves within that period of 2 years, he would have to pay us back for the amount of the academy prorated. We had that vetted out legally. I don't think it's much. I don't think it's going to cover even nearly the cost, what it costs to get somebody on, but it does help a young man or woman plan their life. And I think if they're going to do that responsibly, they're going to come here and they're going to give us at least a minimum of 2 years of service. The good thing about that is it starts at the end of their training. So it's a good 2 years of service that we would get from them in a full-time capacity, not just when they're in training.
And during that 2 years, we have to make that person feel comfortable here and feel like this is where they want to be.
We touched on training. I think that's a big draw for officers to stay in a community, is if they are being trained at a very high level. And it is something that we looked at going into fiscal year 19, and something we're looking at 20. We tried to get a baseline in 19 and say, wait a second, where does this money even come from? Where does that figure in that training line even come from? And there was not a lot of information, so we tried to kind of line item it, if you will, and come up with a per officer cost. And now try and get that and watch it for a year and see how does that jive with the tuition and with the training availabilities that are around. But we do feel as though that's a big draw for an officer to stay in a community that trains him in the areas that he is interested or she is interested in and find to be in their wheelhouse. So it's another way we can hopefully try and retain our personnel. But there are goals both short-term and long-term relative to the issue.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yes,
Any
thank you very much.
questions?
No, I think you
Thank
covered
you.
what I wanted to
Thank you.
Thank you, Chiefs. Thanks.
Just gonna do that. I noticed an old friend came by to say hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm gonna divert from the agenda for just a minute. Karen Chapman from the Neshoba School Committee. Did you come to shed some light on our,
Yes, what are your questions?
well, question is, why do they need this?
So, it was initially for myself, but upon discussing it with the chairman of the committee and the superintendent, we decided to bring it to the full school committee, and they voted that we should do this for every town, so that there would be an easier way for people to work. Let me give you an example. So
Thank
we have a
you.
lot of retired people on the school committee. If one of them wanted to, say, work for our town, any of the 8 towns in the district, they wouldn't be able to because of this issue.
Why?
They would have to come before, let's say they wanted a job here as an aide in the library or something, okay? All they would have to do is come to this board, basically petition the board for them to become a special municipal employee. It's not a big deal. We did it before. Carolyn, did you need that at one point, or, yeah,
That position was declared.
yeah, that's what I thought.
So all the towns are voting it, everyone except for Townsend and Pepperell have voted,
Have voted.
have voted.
I'd prefer to do it on a as-needed basis, and that way we know what the situation is.
Could you do that now
For whom?
for the representatives to the school committee?
Are you looking to get a job in town?
What, do you need it from us?
Yes,
For?
so that I can work, so that I can stay on the school committee, basically.
Why can't you stay on the school committee?
Because I work for MRPC.
What does that have to do with Townsend?
Talk to ethics. Because MRPC is a regional agency, I technically work for 22 communities. Because I'm on the regional school district, we represent 8 towns, 4 of them overlap.
But you don't get paid for the school committee work.
Right, but I get paid for my job, I was on the school committee first. If I had the job first, like when I worked for Townsend, and then I got on the school committee, I was able to do it because I was already a special municipal employee. And I was in the paid position first, and then on the volunteer. If you're on the volunteer first and then in the paid, this is how ethics explained it to me. I think it's ridiculous, but this is what.
Could we ask town council to kind of look at that?
You know what,
Please.
I'm starting to get a sense of the minutia of ethics, that this is, you're explaining it from a different perspective than we were discussing it, and I'm starting to understand it a little bit more, even though I don't know that I can articulate it, although there is a lawyer in the room. That, but, not that I'm deferring to him, but, I mean, it gets into the legalese of ethics and the statuses and making decisions, and MRPC is a quasi-public agency based on something.
It is a state agency.
It's a state agency, okay.
This is the opinion I was given by ethics.
And ethics is
They
requesting,
had never seen anything like it, which I find hard to believe. But their 5 or 6 lawyers talked about it for a week and came up with this solution. And so I brought it to the superintendent and the chairman, and they said, well, this could be an issue for other people, so we talked to our school committee, town council.
so you're the problem child.
I am.
But if all the other towns, other than us and Pepperell, so far have voted in the affirmative to make this, to just do this,
Right,
and there's
It
no
doesn't-
harm if we do it,
right.
it's just, okay.
Towns do it all the time for people all the time.
I know we do, and so I'm changing my concern, and I'm, at this point, since we
Well,
did
I mean-
table this, I'm willing to go ahead and do this for,
I would do it for Karen. I would say, in this situation, for Karen Chapman, I'd be willing to say you're a
but that's
special.
not what they're asking, they need it,
Can't
because
happen
we're
that way.
a member of Neshoba Valley Regional.
They want all the towns, ethics
we're
wants
voting-
all of the towns to agree?
Yes,
School committee.
it's a school committee, because we're part of the region, we need to do it as a region.
The one area that I think council would be helpful is when you read the guidance on the statute, it says that you're dealing with not individuals but positions.
That's right.
And once a position is designated as special municipal, all positions of that category are specials. So I'd be interested to know how some towns can make a school committee member specials and another town couldn't.
Well,
It doesn't-
maybe it's
Why
because
we're being
it's
asked to-
region.
I think the letter says we have to be, all the towns have to unanimously agree, or none of the towns can
Okay,
have this.
first of
So
all,
Karen would have to give up her job.
thank you for coming.
No, I know that.
Job, obviously.
Thank you for coming by, because the letter that we got
Wasn't
was
clear.
horrid. Okay? It was horrid.
I think they didn't understand it either.
Well,
It didn't explain.
before you
anything.
ask me for something, you better understand it yourself. Okay?
But as much as it's still got, I
Okay,
like
I'm
Karen's
fine.
explanation,
Yeah.
I'm willing to
I'm
go
fine.
for it.
Here's the consequences if you don't do this.
We can't work with MRPC with you.
No,
No.
no, my job pays me.
We have to replace her on
You
the
have
school
to
committee.
replace me on the school committee.
Yeah, nobody else wants to do that
And
job.
she can't do anything else without being a special
Okay.
municipal employee,
So what they're looking for is a vote that
All,
Designating this position of
Any-
school committee member. to the
Neshoba school committee members shall be special municipal employees. Do you want to make that motion, sir?
Sure. I vote that the board authorize the Neshoba Valley Technical School District to declare school committee members.
No,
Nope.
no.
You're declaring, you're the only one that can declare.
That we declare, that the board declare.
our representatives doing that, Neshoba Valley Regional.
All right, I got 3 people talking to me then.
That the board designate members, a member or members of Neshoba Valley Regional School District from Townsend to be
Special list.
considered special municipal employees.
All right.
So moved.
Second. Yeah, second, yeah.
Did you get that, Carolyn? Thank you. Okay, more discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming.
thank you very much. Now I can file disclosures with 4 towns.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, that's
You wanted
easy
to do more
copy
paperwork.
paste.
I did.
That's easy copy paste, anyway.
Are they keeping you busy enough over there? Do we need to give you more work?
No, thank you.
All right, let's go.
Okay. 6.1, Town Administrator Updates and Reports.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, you should have a copy of a report that was sent out just today.
I didn't take a copy of it, but that's okay.
Who's in the packet?
Yeah, you should have a hard copy there too.
Is it
That's
there?
it right in your hand.
Oh, good.
Yep.
I don't know where I did it.
Given that I wasn't around for the bulk of last week, I didn't get to this until today, but under personal updates, interim treasurer collector services, as per your prior authorization, we now have the assistance of an outside agent in the treasurer collector office. Ms. Suzanne Marchand is with us 2 days a week and has hit the ground running. You may or may not be aware that she performed the very same function for us in the winter of 2015-16 during our last transition in the full-time position of treasurer collector. There's no action requested, but as an ancillary follow-up for you, we're still compiling the data, getting it in from communities that have been deemed comparable communities by HRS in our prior studies for the rates of pay for treasurer collector, which will then bring me back to you for your consideration of re-advertising at a different rate. Legal counsel, Cable Access Corporation is number 2. The Cable Advisory Committee has previously been authorized by the board to secure independent legal counsel. I would respectfully request the board's support in working with the committee to secure different counsel, as the current arrangement has not been nearly productive enough. I'm writing kindly, as this is a public document. So under board action requested, vote to support a change in counsel for the Cable Advisory Committee. We have had fits and starts in trying to schedule meetings before the board at your directive, and it's been known that it was a directive of the board, and it just has not been satisfied.
So you would have to go out and search for someone?
We would. It's a very limited pool, but there may be others that weren't available at the time that this gentleman was picked that are now available. But staying where we are now is just not bearing any fruit.
I think it's worth voting on. Get a motion?
I move we authorize the town administrators to seek different counsel for different legal counsel for the Cable Access Corporation project.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, Jim.
Okay. Item 3, I'll actually defer to the chair. This is something that has had a lot of mileage over the past couple of weeks. My report says what it says. I don't think there's any surprise in what I've written and what I've offered as my rationale. So I'd be happy to take any questions you had on the matter or just participate in any discussion that you feel is appropriate.
This actually came about partly because of the request to town council for opinion on appointing authority and who the appointing authority is for the departments that come within the directly under the selectmen. Council's been pretty clear, I think, and this is the first opportunity that the wards had to talk together about it, that we are the appointing authority, because that all started when we were talking about it was the records clerk job. Remember, it said affirm or appoint.
Right, that was the
Okay.
motion. Yeah.
And that was when I started questioning, wait a minute, why are sometimes we saying that and other times we're saying the other? So we got what I consider to be clarification. And then I also asked town council what the requirements were for posting and if it was within the board's purview to give direction for postings. This is just from memory, but basically town council said that the board may do that, and that I'm going to get to, there's all kinds of stuff in that opinion, and there's actually a couple of addendums to the opinion, and they're available for anybody who wants to see them. But I want to cut to the chase, and I want to make sure the executive assistant to the town administrator is an important position. I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence in terms of advertising for that position. We know that we have a very strong candidate that's applied internally. It was advertised on the outside bulletin board, and it turns out that the legal opinion is that when we said bulletin board back in the charter that was written a long time ago, today it would probably also mean internally, using our website, because there aren't too many places that still have external bulletin boards for postings. So what I would like to have the board consider is what Jim has written here as option 1, to move that the board direct the town administrator to post the position of executive assistant to town administrator on the town website for a period of whatever is normal, 10 days. And the reason that I want to do that is because, as I said, due diligence, let's make sure there's nobody out there. And this is very similar to what we heard from the police. There's probably a limited number of candidates that are qualified, that would accept the pay, and, and have what we need for that position. But if there are people interested in that and they think they're qualified, I think they should be considered in the pool, and that we have a pool to select from. That's how I'm feeling about it. Comments, questions? This is the first time we've gotten to talk about it, and it annoys the devil out of me, by the way, that I can't talk to these people, you know, but
I'm pretty annoyed that this has been going on for months. The position's been posted. It's been posted it's been posted on the bulletin board outside, which is not an internal posting, that's an external posting, that anybody can apply for it. We've got a candidate that's been sitting in the position for the better half of 15 years and has been doing a wonderful job and has not had any job problems in that position. I find it difficult to believe that we want to continue to play this circus and do everything that can be done to avoid Carolyn Smart from getting this position, as she's the only candidate. The town administrator has requested that the board appoint Carolyn Smart to the position, which she's doing the job, and the only reason that she's not appointed to the position now is because of all the cluster of the politics in this town, which is part of the board's problem, and the whole reason that this is taking months. This is getting ridiculous.
Ms.
and
King,
let
that's
me
your opinion.
speak. Yeah, that's exactly what you asked for, and it's my right as a member of the Board of Selectmen to discuss
Please
this right
specify
now.
that that's your
I have
opinion.
absolutely no interest in continuing this any farther. I will not go along with posting any further, and I'd like to make a motion tonight, if it's me or Wayne or somebody, to either appoint Carolyn or not appoint Carolyn. If you don't want Carolyn to have the job, I want you to stand up and make your opinion known that you want to do everything you can to prevent her from having that job, or I want to have her appointed tonight to the position, because I'm sick of this going on and on and on, to drag it into nowhere. There's not going to be another candidate that has 15 years as the executive assistant in any municipality that's going to come here and replace her. And if that's what you're looking to do, we're just going to be here till Christmas, where she's not going to have an appointed, the position that she's doing. The town clerk's office is trying to have an assistant town clerk down there. It's holding up progress in the whole town, and it's really hurting productivity for day-to-day town business, and is leaving employees in a lurch, not knowing what their status is. So I'd like to just get this settled tonight, and we're either going to appoint Carolyn or we're not, and I'm just not going to go along with posting this position again. Thank you.
You're welcome. Wayne?
I'm glad we went through this, because I wanted to make sure that it was publicly known that what the process should be and needs to be every time. If we're following that, fantastic. And just make it clear that this is the way we should be doing it and have been doing it, or moving forward. So I'm going to leave my personal opinions out of it, and I accept Jim's piece of it. If we so choose to move to repost the position, I will vote one way or the other on that. I'm not ready to, this is the first time, as Sue said, we've got to discuss this, so if we're following the procedure and the procedure is in place and is followed, then I don't have any, you're the hiring person. You're the one that's going to be held accountable for your employees' actions. So this is the risk you're taking on this, because this is going to be performance-based position. So if there are issues with the position, then they'll need to be dealt with accordingly. And it's going to reflect on you for that too, so, as supervisor. So that's my only real comment on this matter.
So help me understand where you're at with, Cindy was very clear that she does not want it to be posted on the website. How do you feel about that?
I think, moving forward, I think the position should be posted prominently. People aren't looking for jobs on bulletin boards. That's not reality. So I do have an issue with, I know we only got one candidate, because that one candidate walks by the bulletin board every day, so she sees it. But that's not to say the position should have been posted elsewhere, because we did the same thing with the water department. Had trouble getting candidates for all those positions, if I remember correctly. Police department is obviously having the same thing, so, you know, I want to broaden our reach, I guess.
But what you're saying is, are you saying going forward or for this particular posting? Because we have a choice of a couple of motions.
Well, here's my, and this is the part I've been wrestling with. So if we repost it, Carolyn applies for it. She's the only one that
Well,
applies for
she
it.
doesn't have to apply, she already has. She's in
Okay.
the pool.
Right, so no one else applies for it, and we're ended up back here, and then we're 2 weeks, 3 weeks away from another meeting starting
Right.
to appoint it. I don't think it really hurts to ask for more, because Jim's, I mean, we have a very strong candidate with experience, and she's been doing the job to his expectations.
And ours.
Yes, I have had no problems working with her to date, so. But, again, you're gonna need candidates for the clerk position as well. So I think it's a way to get bodies in the building to interview.
On that point, the clerk's position is hired by the clerk. That's one that falls, it doesn't come under
Well, yes,
Attorney
not under
Jenkins.
us.
So she's actually already well
Okay.
down that road.
Okay, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so that one's hers.
That's clear.
Just, there's a couple things that Wayne was saying that I think it's important. So you did, I presume that you gave David's most recent document on the table today? It does state, when he was asked the question, he writes, "In my opinion, the town administrator has followed the charter and the personnel policies in bringing forward a candidate for the position of executive assistant. The posting of that position was in compliance with the requirements of both documents." So at the time that the position was being posted, the rules were met. I think that's what Wayne was saying, is that at that point in time, they were met. The charter does allow you, as a Board of Selectmen, to designate some other thing as the official town bulletin board, but as of the time the position was posted, the bulletin board was the bulletin board. If you want it to be the website, it's a simple vote, and then it's the website. That's within your prerogative to do, clearly. The concerns that I've expressed, I won't go through the whole thing, but just the bullet points. You know, I'm obviously going to defer to the board's collective judgment. You know, this is your call, that's been made clear. It's different than the original, you know, letter and the way things had been being done, but the opinion of today is clear that it's yours.
I don't think you need to go through that. I'm convinced, for myself anyway, I'm convinced that you are behind your candidate 100%.
I'm behind process
And
as well, Sue.
And I believe as well that you followed the process that was known at that time. Okay? And it hasn't changed at this point because we haven't given it direction to change. Okay? So I'm just looking to say, should we do due diligence and see if there are other candidates out there? But I'm listening to my colleagues and I'm saying, what are the chances that there are going to be any other candidates that are willing to put up with, seriously, accept the pay and have the kind of experience that Carolyn has? And I just don't think at this point that it's worth spending any more time on. So anybody that thinks that if I were so adamantly opposed, as some people may think, I would not be as calm and willing to say that I would be willing to go with your recommendation. I think that as a town, though, we need to start looking at how we do recruiting and
I completely agree.
and putting some other things in place. And we've talked about competitiveness in terms of pay scale and all of that. It's important to me that we have an infusion of new folks working for the town, too, because I think they bring a lot of new things, new ideas, new ways of doing things, and we're missing out on that because our recruitment is basically turnover within the town. I mean, I will entertain a motion.
Excuse me, could I just, I just need to change.
Go to commercial.
Sorry, the anticlimactic here. Just want to make sure that everything gets recorded.
Oh, the timing was just perfect.
At least we don't have to repeat ourselves.
Stand by. We have a problem here.
Of course we do.
The last opinion we got said that should be changed.
What did you cross off, I'm sorry? Okay. That one.
To a point.
Yep, got it.
Okay, we're all set, thank you.
Are we back?
Yes.
We're back, thank you.
I'm going to make two motions.
Okay.
First is going to move that the board approve any new postings to be at minimum included on the website, and direct Mr. Kryler to explore other employment posting opportunities.
Employment, you mean recruitment?
Recruitment, excuse me.
Recruitment,
Yeah. I'll amend to recruitment.
okay. Just a minute before we do that, Jim, we talked a little bit about a policy for the website as well.
Yeah.
Could we just defer that
Okay.
to our work session?
Yes, I'm fine.
I think it would fit more in that one.
Yeah.
Then we
Okay.
can define it a little bit better. Okay,
Okay?
okay, I'm fine with that. I move that the board, pursuant to the town administrator's recommendation, that the board appoint Ms. Carolyn Smart to the executive assistant as town administrator.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I do have a question. We were going to look at that job description too, so we're still going to do that,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Is this an appointment to June 30th, or is this a longer term?
These positions are appointed with no terms.
With no terms?
Regular
Okay, I just want to make
employment.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I seconded that.
And there's no probationary period, or there is that required?
As an internal candidate, there wouldn't be.
She's already employed.
Yeah. And she's already done the year.
Okay. I mean, somebody's going to ask, so that's fine, okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful.
Carolyn, I just want to say thank you for all that you do. And I do look forward to it.
Section B, financial updates, fiscal 18 year-end financial and free cash. The town accountant advises, in spite of the lack of treasurer collector, that everyone has been pitching in and working to keep us on track. In that regard, the current expectation is that the town will submit its closed and balanced books to the State Department of Revenue, DOR, by mid-next week, At that point, it's in DOR's hands to review, approve, and certify free cash. I expect to have a sense of that timing for you at your next meeting. The certification of free cash is usually the prerequisite to calling a special town meeting. I will have a broadly sketched-out timeline for an STM for your next meeting based upon the feedback from DOR. Now, we did have a discussion about you don't really need to have free cash in order to have a town meeting. You can have non-financial issues you want to address. But if we get the picture that we're close, instead of having to have another special once we have free cash for financial matters, unless you have something burning.
Yeah, I think planning is looking at some stuff that may be time sensitive.
December 31st for the
The
moratorium.
moratorium, okay?
Marijuana, yeah.
And,
Hopefully there's a bylaw coming.
well, there is, and.
There is a draft that-
There is a draft, I think it's gone or going to town council.
I believe so.
I think that, I mean, basically, they're gonna need a timeline
Right. So
for
if you
when
take-
everything is due.
Right, if you take the worst case for that deadline and considering the holidays and call it a second week December, which is not optimum, but would be the worst case.
Worst case, yeah.
So a special only,
Hold on.
yeah,
When are you going away in December?
6th, 7th, 8th.
Thank you.
Yeah. But there will be a guard dog in my house. Just saying. So if you back up from there, the requirement is a 2-week notice for posting of the warrant, so that puts us at the last week of November. There's a 72-hour minimum requirement that the warrant be open, but it can be open anytime prior to that, so that's really not a critical path item. So if we had free cash certified by December 12th, we'd be fine. If we post it for December 12th, get there and don't have free cash certified yet, we would go forward with the non-financial articles and just pass over the financial ones. So
I thought you said 2nd, December 2nd.
12th.
12th,
12th,
okay.
yeah.
Could we kind of put that in writing
Yeah,
as to
I can
what
do a
the,
calendar.
what it would look like?
Sure.
And what would be due? Because I think we talked about a couple changes to some bylaws as well. It's a good time to get
Do we
some of
already have a
that
folder?
stuff.
Unregistered motor vehicle.
Unregistered motor vehicles is top of my list.
Do we already have potential
We do.
articles that are,
We
do.
that
We
we're
keep
kind
it
of
in order.
collecting? Okay.
Pardon
You
me?
enjoy your ride along?
Oh, I enjoyed the ride-along. I just didn't enjoy the having to do that.
So I'll put together a timeline of worst-case scenario, and then it's a matter of you move one and everything slides backwards, so.
Well, does that help the folks that need to, I'm thinking of planning. They
have public hearing requirements that we'd work into that timeline as well. So I can work with.
Let them know now
With
that
Michelle.
we're working.
With
at-
Michelle
in this
first thing
direction.
tomorrow.
That'd be great.
Take their deadlines in, when they expect that they'll have draft review by council sufficient for public hearing purposes, and factor that into the calendar.
That'd be wonderful, thank you. I mean, I think there might be some others too,
All
so.
department heads, I
Yeah,
think.
all departments and
Yeah,
boards,
We've already got a good file, so.
but all
But let all
departments and
department
boards
heads know that
should
we are
get that
actually working
calendar.
tentatively towards
Yeah,
whatever the timeline needs to be for them.
okay,
Wonderful.
There could be all kinds of little things that we don't know about.
thank you.
Excellent. And I recognize that the hour is getting late, but you do have a copy of the board's voted and approved goals, objectives, and
Yep.
deliverables. The items that are highlighted are things that have either been done or are notated as when they're to be done. For instance, update existing roadway management plan is in capital asset number 1. There is a meeting, it's noted there, with the vendor October 15th. So the most recent plan we have, which was done in November 15, the vendor for that plan is coming in for a meeting with us to give us 2 things. One is, we've got people here now that weren't here when you put this plan into place, walk us through it. And second to that, what would cost be generally speaking, to update it, because all that would really be required is we have repaired these roads since then, or we've had, 15 different areas we've identified that have become more critical than they were over the last couple of years. So that's to take place, and that will then drive each of the points below in that block in terms of use of an updated road management plan to cost out the scope of needs and everything that falls from that.
Are you planning on reaching out to, say, Lunenburg?
Yes, I've reached out to my counterpart in Lunenburg on that issue, and it is as I expressed at the last meeting. They did come up with what their usual and customary Chapter 90 is, and then they had an override for the Delta, and they bled it out over a 10-year period.
I thought they also designated one of the revenue streams to dedicate to that as well.
I think it was just the Chapter 90, but I'll go back to her.
Could you check on that? Because I think there was something else
Sure.
that they made as a dedicated allocation to that.
Absolutely. Information technology infrastructure, the draft request for proposals for Phase 1 has been completed, bid award and execute. The way it was structured is we were able to purchase and are in the process of doing the final purchasing for the hardware. Off-state bid list pursuant to the information we received from our grant-funded IT infrastructure report from Acuity. So if it said buy an XYZ such and so, we bought it. So instead of paying a vendor to get it with their markup, we purchased the hardware. What we have bid is just the labor cost for installation. And the expectation from Bassam is that the existing amount we have of the $46,000 IT grant and the $10,000 he had at the end of his last budget cycle that he's made purchases from, we should be able to get into this first phase and complete this first phase within the next couple of months. And for special town meeting, he would have the second phase drafted for your consideration, which will be roughly another $75,000, which includes, the only thing different from what was done with the IT grant is this also includes a small portion for phone work. There's a presentation that he's been working on regarding not using voice over IP, but instead a cloud-based phone system. I'm not sold on that personally yet. I'm not the most technologically proficient guy, but it seems to me if your entire phone service is predicated on you having internet service, that
What we have.
yeah. So I expect that I'll have that final scope for you probably within the next month.
I wanted to bring something up having to do with IT. Carolyn had suggested, and I took her advice on it, and I went to the meeting that was over at Holy Cross last week. There was, it was the governor and all,
Right.
I think DLS put it on.
Community compact stuff.
Yeah, it was all about the community compact stuff, and the one thing that I did find was really interesting. I mean, they talked about public safety and the difficulty in recruitment. That was interesting, but the one having to do with IT, they talked about security, but they also talked about things like installing, purchasing and installing Office 365, and that you may, at the beginning, think that that's not the best thing to do, but they have done it, and they have a model for that, and so I think that the community compact stuff, in that sense, is real helpful to a community like us, because they can give, these are the steps that you go through in order to do this, and they've worked out the bugs.
Right. Part of the discussion that Sam and I had about Office 365 versus Microsoft Exchange platform, and I'm already over my head in terms of what this means, but he said that a lot of the feedback that he's been receiving is that Microsoft Exchange system is a preferable. Now, I'm not even certain I'm talking about apples and
See, the
apples.
state is talking the cloud. The state is talking the cloud.
Right.
All right? And I think it's worth talking to to the state
Sure.
in terms of how they've modeled some of this stuff.
Because he's going based off of Acuity's report. So the compact funded the report, and you know, they're kind of the designated
I don't want to
sweetheart.
be one of the, how many communities in the state don't have retiree health care?
1 of 6. We are 1 of 6.
We're 1 out of 6. I don't want to be 1 out of 6 for our IT stuff either, okay? So I think it's worth looking at. It's no reflection on Acuity,
Sure.
but I think it's worth looking at,
Gotcha.
especially if there's a model out there to follow.
I will
And
chase
there's
that.
A lot
potentially
of places are
money
going to
out there
365.
too.
I use
Can I
365.
add something?
Yes,
Can we move this to the work session
we can.
in the interest of time?
Sure.
Just to review this?
in
I'm not
terms
trying
of-
to cut you off.
I'm
Okay.
done for the night.
Could we just say when our next meetings are, please?
Yes, I've lost track.
Thursday?
Okay.
Thursday, we have town
Thursday.
council.
We have town council this Thursday,
Correct.
and that's at 6:30, is what I had down.
Whatever the draft agenda that went out today
Whatever the
is.
draft agenda
I'll
is,
look on the
okay.
website.
We did have a tentative meeting scheduled for next next Tuesday.
I'm not available now.
You're not available. How's next
I
Tuesday look?
thought that we had rescheduled that.
We did, but work precedes my schedule here, so.
Okay, well,
Do we have something for
I have a
next
job.
Tuesday?
I don't-
My boss, the page.
I can come Tuesday, I just,
I don't think
Don't
we
have
have anything,
I think we covered a lot tonight.
okay.
It was just the work session there.
So let's get rid of that one. Whoops. It didn't delete. Why didn't it delete? Oh, it did, sorry. We do not have one scheduled for the 16th. We have a work session scheduled for the 23rd. Is that going to be all right for
Still
getting
good.
business done?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. You guys all set with that?
Yep.
Not that there isn't work to do in between. Okay,
You're up.
Wayne?
You have one.
I have one. I just want to announce from Superintendent Morgan. Hawthorne Brook, they found, has 2 boilers that neither one of them are working, basically. They might be chugging, but they're not really. They need to both be replaced. And they wanted to let us know that they are going to replace them. One of the boilers, they have enough money to pay for one of them in the accelerated repair project that they already have going. And MSBA said that because HVAC was part of the scope, that it covers the boilers. So one and a portion of the other one will be paid from the money that they have left in that account. The rest of it will come from the green project here in town, from the grant, so that they will be replacing both of the boilers there, and they wanted to let us know that.
Okay.
Okay. 6:3, any announcements?
I do have one, and I apologize to the 2 boys that left their names at home, but there are 2 local Boy Scouts that are going for their Eagle Scout project. They're in the fundraising phase right now, so there's a couple of bake sales, GoFundMes, various ways to donate money, but one of them is to build a patio paver piece where they do all the cooking in the back of the town common.
Oh, nice.
So I just ask everybody to support them if they can.
Thanks. Any correspondence? I don't think so.
Just the one that
Just what you
we
referred
covered
to.
earlier.
Okay. 6.5, approval of meeting minutes for September 11th and 18th. Any questions on those?
I did not have any.
Is that, I'm sorry?
Minutes.
Meeting minutes, did you look at them?
I think one of them I wasn't I wasn't present.
Do you know which one?
The 11th?
Yeah, she was,
Yeah, but otherwise we're good. The other one I'm fine.
yeah, 11th, she was gone.
Okay, so do you want to make two motions here?
Yeah, I move the board approve the meetings from September 11th, 2018.
Second? Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you're abstaining?
And second, I move the board approve the meeting minutes from September 18th, 2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6.6, review and sign payroll.
I move the board sign payroll, bills payable outside of session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move the board adjourn the meeting at 9:30.
Second.